Hello. Thank you for coming and joining and listening and pressing play. I'm Charlotte Patmore and vote for Patmore on the internet, and I'm attempting to make a podcast alone. I also host a podcast for Abbey Road Studios, the MPAs, with my best friend and incredible photographer, Katie Cummings. Go listen to that. And today I'm going to talk about 2016. Definitely, nobody cares anymore, and I'm well aware of that. But it is, however, a really big year for me and my career. And so many things happened that were quite defining. And I think it's a good place to start. Okay, so let's set the scene. It's 2016. I am 23. I turned 24. And I am graduating university. If we jump back to 2013, that year, trigger warning, I won't speak about it graphically, but I was run over and I broke my leg really, really badly. And it had quite a detrimental impact to my physical and my mental health. Key factors in that were I spent 6 months bedbound. I didn't really leave a bed at all. And I spent a long time in a wheelchair and on crutches. And it took me 2 years to properly learn how to rewalk again and heal. And I was doing a lot of stuff within that and kind of avoiding healing as well. So there's different versions of that journey, but it meant that I had to take 2 years out of university. And it was a really big deal for me to actually graduate because I was the first person in my family to go to university. And also, I think because of the nature, if I had chosen to leave the degree and just because I got a job, then it would have felt a bit more in my control and my choice. But because it was outsiding factors that meant that I had to defer these 2 years, it felt really important to finish it and complete it. And also I'm grateful for that because now I'm doing a master's. I wouldn't have been able to do a master's if I didn't complete my degree. So lots of positivity there. So at the beginning half of the year was focused on university. I was actually working for a lot of bands that year and I was going on lots of tours, very small UK and European tours with little up and coming bands, nothing fancy, but really fun and really great pictures. I love all the pictures from that time. I was making all the work that I was doing link to my university work. So I think at that point I was getting paid for most stuff, but I also, I could work for free because it would just become a test shoot, or I would link it back into my university work, and none of it was a waste of time or a waste of energy because it would all count towards my grade as well. And also it was building good connections and building my portfolio. So I was shooting a lot at that point. For my final major project, I really wanted to make this book series around, oh, no, okay. So I wanted to make, do you know how little kids have, when you buy a series of books, it comes often in hardback and they're all in a little cardboard box where the books shove in, and then maybe even on all of the spines it might make a picture or something, and they sit in their little neat book box thing. It must have a real name. And I had loads of them when I was little. I really viscerally remember there was this one, Roald Dahl did this revolting rhymes and something beasts, and it was literally just two really tiny books, and they were so skinny, but they were hardback, and then they fit in this tiny cardboard cover box. with like the illustrations on it. And one of the books was pink and one was green, I think. And it was such a like sensory experience, and I was obsessed with the way that books are presented in that way. So I wanted to make like a little kind of like book box set thing of like indie bands and have like all these little books featuring like lots of different bands that I was touring with. And it was just kind of like a little insight into their tour or their life or like a particular tour that I went on. And that they would all sit in this little box set. And I didn't end up making it in the end, but I should still do it because I just love that presentation. I was supposed to go on this Wolf Alice tour, and that didn't happen in the end. And that meant that I had to change my whole plan because all of the bands on that tour I was going to shoot to be in this box. So we, what happened? Oh, so basically, I was working a lot with Black Honey. Me and Izzy were creating this really defined style and creating all these great pictures. And they got offered to go to Dubai to like play a show in an ibis, which was like pretty random, but like an amazing opportunity. Photos from that trip became kind of the majority of my final major project, and they're great photos. They still are like so beautiful, and we got to do lots of really fun stuff on that trip. Like they have that hotel, which I was so excited about, where in the Mary Kate and Ashley film Holiday in the Sun, they go on holiday. I think it's to Barbados, is it? I don't know. Where do they go? Or Bahamas. Do they go to Bahamas? So a B word. They go to somewhere that begins with a B. So in the Mary Kate and Ashley film, they go to Atlantis. And obviously the movie is just a paid PR advert for that hotel. But as a child, it was like my favorite movie ever. I was obsessed with this hotel, and they have the water park that goes through the aquarium. Obsessed. Literally like core childhood memory. Everything about 2016 is actually a core childhood memory, apparently. But basically in Dubai, they built a Bahamas. Not a Bahamas, what am I talking about? They built an Atlantis hotel. And I was like, it's all I want to do is go to this hotel and go to the water park. And yeah, while we were there, we were doing all these great shoots, but we also got to go to the water park and pretend to be Mary Kate and Ashley. And that was honestly like highlight of my entire life. So then I graduate, and then this is an interesting thing that I always think is important to talk about, is that so basically I was in a situation where, I grew up north, and it was like I went to university in London and I got a student loan. And this was kind of how it was for everyone that I knew that got to go to London from the north. Was basically like, if you didn't get a job after you graduate, then you basically just have to move back up north and like give up. And that was just kind of like how it was, I guess. And also just kind of like that is what happened to a lot of people that I know who came down, who got the opportunity to get into one of the universities, which is really difficult. Then they would just have to go back and like give up and get like a quote unquote normal job. And what was interesting about being run over was that I got some money for it. I didn't get a lot of money. Basically, I spent all of the money on getting a flat for 6 months that I like paid up front. And that was what I spent all of the money on. And I was like, I've got 6 months to get a job, basically, and or to start making enough money to be able to do this as my job and to not have to leave. So that's what I did. And in that time, I get a DM from Charli XCX, and she says to me that she loves the way that I capture Izzy from Black Honey, basically, and that she wants me to do that for her. And I go and do this trial shift. That sounds weird. I go and do this trial job in Ibiza to see like if we gel and if it's gonna work. And then they hire me to be her photographer, like full time, and I get put on a retainer. So by the time that 6 months is up, I could move into like another flat. I moved in with one of my friends, but I could get on a real lease and stay in London and like I had a proper income, which was the goal. Okay, so the story from working with Charlie in 2016 in particular. When people ask me what was my favorite experience from touring or being a music photographer, I always tell this story and it actually has nothing to do with music photography whatsoever, but I can tell the music photography aspect of it to make it more interesting. But basically, because of the accident and what I went through, I became like a really big fan of Frida Kahlo. And she was in a road traffic accident and obviously like really impacted her body. And she's an incredible artist and also like a really interesting person. But the disability element was always really inspirational to me. And so there was a job that I did with Charlie where just me and her went to Mexico and we had a day off and she was like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I really, 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 really want to go to the Frida Kahlo Museum. It's my dream to go there, mean like the universe to me." And she was just like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we get taken there and okay, so like pre-contextualize the trip. We're we come from LA and we're like, girls trip, we're going to Mexico. It's gonna be boiling. We only pack bikinis and we're like, we're just gonna have the greatest time, like sunbathing and like hanging out in the sun. And then we get there and it's torrentially raining the entire time. At that point, I had to like kind of vlog everything and video everything that happened. I rewatched the videos and it's raining so much, which was just tragic. So we go to the Frida Kahlo Museum and it's raining, which was kind of nice because it's really sad. I always cry when I see her art. And the, it, it was really powerful and it's obviously my absolute favorite memory to have gotten to go there. And I think being a music photographer is really fun and you get to have all these great experiences like traveling. But I think then what you do with the opportunity is actually the best bit. Like it's interesting me telling these stories and actually being like, oh yeah, I got to go to that water park, which was like my childhood dream, being in Mexico and getting to go to the Frida exhibition. Like it was such a privilege and just means so much to me and always will be mean so much to me. And I guess when I think about touring or when I think about 2016, I actually just think back with a lot of gratitude of like how the experiences were actually my dreams like coming true. And yeah, that's sick. I love it. It's so good, isn't it? How amazing. So that trip from like a music photography perspective basically was like this wild experience where I don't think we really ever got to like talk about it. I don't know if it translated like this publicly or like on social media or whatever, but basically me and Charlie went to Mexico. She played this show, like this huge show where I think loads of fans got to go on stage and then we left the show, like went and got put in a helicopter. The helicopter flew us to an airport where we got on a private jet. The private jet flew us back to LA and then we got in a car and she got her hair and makeup redone. And then we got out of the car at like a club in LA and she went straight on stage and played a show with Sophie. Okay, so now I'm just gonna look at my Instagram archive and see what comes up and chat about that, I guess. And maybe next time it'll be more structured. But this one's Bit of a free flow, bit of a free for all. Let's see. La 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 la. Scroll, 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 scroll. Scroll, 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 scroll. Scroll, 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 scroll. I mean, okay, so I was like selling the merch, and I think that's also when the Vivo Discover maybe was made. Yeah, so Vivo Discover used to amplify like new music on the channel, and then they did it with artists, I guess. I feel like the other people who they did Discovers on weren't necessarily photographers, but they did this kind of like showcase on me, and then I picked musicians that I liked, and they got to do a Video Discover session, which was quite cool. What else happened here? Glastonbury and lots of voting. Oh, and then like I was also still doing a bit of stuff with Fashion Week. At that point, I'd kind of stepped away from doing like Fashion Week stuff. I used to work at Fashion Week quite a lot. There is a picture of me holding a light where I was like a lighting assistant for a coach show. And my entire job was to just go and hold a light over Kate Moss so that she looked good in the photos. That's nice, isn't it? Fun times. What else? So I was like working at Enemy magazine. I started working at Enemy magazine in like 2013, 14. But obviously, because I broke my leg, it was a bit sporadic until I could come back into the office. But I used to work on the picture desk, and then I would also shoot for the magazine. So here I can see that in 2016 I was taking more pictures for the magazine, which is cool. And what else is here? Oh, and we did the Catfish and the Ballman tour with Black Honey. That was kind of like the era where I was doing lots of little tours with little bands, and then the little bands would get to go on tour with bigger bands, and then we got to kind of experience what bigger tours looked like. So I actually went on tour with the Big Moon quite a lot as well that year, and I shot that album cover for Love in the Fourth Dimension, which was Mercury nominated. And I don't have a picture of it, but they printed that picture like huge on the side of a taxi, and I'm so sad that I never got to see it in real life. That was really exciting. But I do have the pictures of Rough Trade where they filled all the shelves with the vinyl and the posters everywhere, which was really cool. And I still have the fabric for the actual photo. We covered all the walls, and then we made bedding in this one fabric, and I still have all of the fabric, and I've always wanted to do something with it, like make an outfit out of it or something, but never like figured out what's the best thing to do. But I still have it like 10 years later. Oh yeah, I also started shooting Ray. I was doing Ray's development, and so basically the way that it works from like a photography job point of view. So often at this time I started getting this job, and I did it on a few artists, and the labels would get me to come and just shoot like one particular artist over and over again. So I would do like their press shots, and I would shoot all of their like first gigs and all like BTS and their music videos. I would sometimes go to the studio. Like I would kind of document everything, and I would be kind of like assigned as their photographer while they're in development. And sometimes you would shoot like EP covers, and it would be like all of the behind the scene cooking bit where they were figuring out who the artist was or how they were going to market them. And then often once they figured it out, they would get like a bigger photographer to come in and like shoot the album, artwork, etc. And then you would get put on like a new small artist. Yeah, so I was doing that with Ray in 2016, and it was amazing and really special. Like it's like bittersweet, obviously, to also see the impact that that had on her, and also the impact that kind of system has had on lots of people, lots of artists. But in this moment, it was so incredible to get to see her grow, like how hard she worked, and
Ray is literally like a ray of sunshine. That's like the most terrible description. But it is true. She had this like glow to her, and I guess she was really young then, but it is really special when you meet an artist who's just got so much passion and drive for what they're doing. And it was the same with Charli. She always worked really hard. And it's interesting that both of them are having this moment now where they are being really appreciated. And maybe a lot of people aren't aware of, how much work was happening for years and years and years in the background. I think it's quite interesting, and especially for someone who wants to be a music photographer, like I'm assuming lots of people who are listening to this maybe do want to be a music photographer. I do think it is interesting to know that that is a job, like a potential job that you can do at a label.
There's definitely more cool things happening. And just like a lot of both more merch going on. Oh, and David Bowie died. Yeah. Oh, and I was also doing food pictures for the Breakfast Club at this point. I was doing a lot of stuff. I think it's interesting to look back because it's like I really was doing a lot of different stuff, and I was working very, very hard, but also, like doing the most and doing everything, and just really like taking it, like every opportunity that was presenting itself, and it paid off. And that's the moral of the story. All your dreams can come true. The end, right? Good. Also, okay, well, I hope that was interesting. I don't know if I even said anything of interest, but you can please comment your thoughts either way. Like, the algorithm loves it. Let me know if you have something that you think would be interesting for me to talk about. If you hated that, let me know. If you liked it, let me know. And as I get better at talking alone, this will become more interesting, I promise. Hopefully it was just comforting, and it was just like a nice body doubling experience where you got to fold the laundry away or do a task like clean the kitchen, and you got to listen to me yap away. And maybe I'll try and be funny next time and entertaining. It's my first time living and my first time talking out loud alone, apparently. So yeah, please come with me. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how we grow. And see you next time. Peace. Mercy.